If you drive for DoorDash or Uber Eats, I want you to watch this video because my brother and I just completed a shift driving for both apps in a brand new marketplace for me here in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And I want to go over some tips, tricks, and strategies that allowed him to earn $25 per hour. I also want to welcome you here to the channel. This channel is dedicated to your success in this gig economy, the side hustle. So if you are new here, consider subscribing. So I mentioned new marketplace. Pittsburgh is certainly not new to me. I'm from Pittsburgh, but for the past 3 years, I've lived in San Diego, California, and I've driven for Uber Eats and DoorDash in San Diego. So now that I'm visiting Pittsburgh for a couple of weeks, it's interesting to see what works in different marketplaces, because especially if you're in any small or medium-sized markets, I want you to hear these tips. So tip number one, that was really a new discovery for me, is distance really matters in these tight, smaller marketplaces. Now, I'm a big believer in the dollars to mile ratio. How much am I getting paid for the miles driven? But Matt really valued the dollars to time ratio, we'll call it, really paying attention to distance. Because regardless of what kind of marketplace you're driving in, a small, a medium, or a large size marketplace, distance matters, and even more so, hotspots and knowing when and where to drive. So this shift, for example, as we can see in order here, we went online at 9:45 a.m. and drove for a couple of hours until 11:45 a.m. So this order example, Einstein Brothers Bagels, this is on Uber Eats, we can see $9.19 for just 2.6 miles. So considering the dollars to mile ratio, that's very good. For getting $9+ for just 2.5+ miles, 2.6 miles exactly. But for Matt's strategy in Pittsburgh, let's consider what it means for dollars to time. Matt knows his marketplace. He really wants to stay in the hot zones of Pittsburgh. So whenever you're driving, you're going to be doing the same. So yes, the pay is very good, but we also want to pay attention to where is this order taking me? Because for Matt's knowledge of his marketplace, 2.6 miles obviously is not a long distance, and the pay is very good here. But he took this order because it's not taking him too far out of that hotspot. So what does this mean for you? If you're staying in these hotspots, if you're taking these orders that don't take a lot of time, but hopefully pay pretty well, again, dollars to time ratio, we're calling it, then that means that you're going to finish pretty much in the current hotspot that you want to be in, or at least you're very, very close to getting back into that hotspot. Now let's look at this order. This one for Starbucks for $7.73 for 2.4 miles. And the reason this one was favorable is that 2.4 miles, again, it's not taking him really outside of that zone he wants to be in. We can see here, we're kind of almost looping around in our route versus just making a straight line outside of that zone, which would make this order less attractive. Something else that's very important that I want you to consider when you're looking at prospective orders like this, that's of course the restaurant that you're going to be picking up from. So this is Starbucks. The last one was Einstein Brothers Bagels. So as you drive in your marketplace, you're going to find out, okay, this place is fast. This place is usually on their game. They're pretty quick versus this other place. Well, there's usually a line. Sometimes they didn't start the order until I arrived. And here is a fantastic example of dollars to time and honestly, dollars to mile as well. This order, $7, which is pretty strong. And in my opinion, this should be your minimum payout, about $7 for just 1.1 miles. And here's a question for you. Honestly, this order is so low in miles that you may want to consider a $6 payout for just 1.1 miles, or even maybe a $5 or $5.50 payout, because it's literally down the road. So let me know down below in the comments, what's kind of the lowest dollars to mile ratio, we'll say, that you're accepting whenever you're out there on the road. Let's look at another strong example of positioning when it comes to dollars to time. This order from Bruegger's Bagels is paying $8. So again, that's really in the minimum that I want you to look at for just 3 miles, but there's a little bit more to that. This is of course on DoorDash, and there's power in multi-apping. That's driving on different apps at the same time and then comparing any simultaneous requests and taking the best one for you. So this order, we can see Matt's current location indicated by the blue dot. Now, ideally, he would like to get a little bit more north into this Shadyside and Oakland area of Pittsburgh. So of course, for his strategy for positioning in that hotspot, this order is a no-brainer. It's pulling him back up north, and there's a strong dollars to mile ratio. So I definitely want to go over the numbers and explain how Matt earned that $25 an hour, but just to summarize what best practices allowed him to earn these kind of numbers. Number one, for him, it's looking at the dollars to time ratio. It's not only, okay, how many miles is this order, but is it going to pull me outside of really the zone that I want to be in? Number two, that's multi-apping, like I mentioned. That's allowing you to compare any promos across those apps, and it's keeping you busier, especially again, if one app is slow. And then number three, really a staple that should be a foundation of your driving, regardless of whatever app and whatever niche you're driving on, and that is market knowledge. Growing up in Pittsburgh, Matt knows the Pittsburgh marketplace, and driving more and more shifts on Uber Eats and DoorDash, then you further that expertise and start understanding the restaurants at a deeper level. It's all of that and more that allows you to make the best money on these apps. So now it's time to actually look at the numbers, do a breakdown, and see how we did. So this shift in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, on no peak pay from DoorDash, with some light variable surge on the Uber Eats platform. This shift was from 9:45 a.m. until 11:45 a.m. Our total gross revenue on the Uber Eats platform, $37.17, with an additional $14.50 on DoorDash. That equals that gross revenue per hour of $25.84. During this shift, Matt completed 7 deliveries, received 7 tips as well, with an average tip of $3.94. And knowing his marketplace, keeping those miles short, allowed him to keep his business miles to just 18. And that is a strong dollars to mile payout of $2.87. Based on those business miles, Matt gets a tax deduction of $10.35. There's 2 major takeaways that I want you to know whenever you're looking at your numbers, and your numbers are important because they tell most of the story. That's, yes, probably what you like seeing the most is your gross revenue per hour, but it's also your dollars to mile payout. Because your dollars to mile payout is really telling almost a better story of your efficiency when driving. So we can see here, Matt got a payout of $2.87 for his business miles driven. I want you to be at $2 to $3 payout per mile, because that means you're taking the best dollars to mile ratio orders. You're not driving excessive miles whenever you're looking for an order because you're parking, you're sitting, and you're waiting. Because if you were driving around looking for orders, or you were taking orders with a lesser dollars to mile ratio, well, that eats into your actual payout because you're increasing your expenses with miles driven. But hey, if you got value in this video, can you definitely drop me a like? And if you're driving on Uber Eats, DoorDash, Postmates, Grubhub, any app in this gig economy, check out my Amazon storefront so you can get the very best accessories. And you can also click or tap the screen now for my most recent video, as well as a video recommended for you, and I'll see you in the next one.